Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET Now. Important updates for our viewers. Remember that as per the RBI, after the expiry of the 31st August 2020 of the general loan moratorium that was given by the central bank, taking into consideration any cash crunch difficulties that may have cropped up for individuals, the banks were required to offer further restructuring options to borrowers. So following this, we have HDFC Bank as well as State Bank of India, two of India's largest banks that have come out with their restructuring process on the website. There are FAQs given. The RBI has given a framework to banks and lending institutions on how exactly these plans should be implemented. Remember that the people who are eligible for restructuring are those individuals who have been properly servicing their loans up till for more than 30 days with the bank as on 1st March 2020, but it's because of the pandemic and the lockdown that ensued which has hit their repayment ability. So you can visit the bank's website for the application link to fill the application form and submit the relevant details. Your relationship manager may call you, and the balance tenure of the loan, of course, can be extended by a further period of maximum 2 years, so that your monthly EMI repayment can, the burden may come off a little. Your bank, remember, will ask you to submit all kinds of details about your current status of employment or your business. As per regulatory guidelines, your loan facility will be reported to the credit bureau as restructured after you have contacted your bank and after the whole process has been done for restructuring. This has to be done as per regulatory guidelines to the credit bureaus, and hence all loans with the bank will be classified and reported as restructured. There is a possibility the bank may levy a fee if you choose to restructure your loan. So just speak to your relationship manager, or for HDFC Bank, fill out the application form. And it's not just HDFC Bank, like I mentioned, even State Bank of India has released the recast loan norms, and we spoke with Mr. C. Sethi with respect to the same. Listen into his conversation with Tamanna Inamdar.
One of the important things to understand here is that this is a very specific restructuring package which is aimed at those companies which are impacted by the COVID, number one. Number two, the option of restructuring is coming with certain boundary conditions. Apart from what Kamath Committee had recommended, the boundary financial conditions, it also comes with the fact that you can't extend beyond 2 years reschedulement, and you can't give moratorium beyond 2 years. So these boundary conditions, in my view, would help the banks to structure or restructure those companies which are truly viable. So if they are truly viable, and if the promoters are confident that their businesses will turn around, the personal guarantee should not be a problem at all. So to answer your question, one, on the personal guarantee, I don't think promoters will have any hesitation in giving because the businesses are viable. Number two, because of the boundary conditions which come with this, the lenders will not be able to go overboard, if I can use that word, to restructure those companies which are not viable. I think these two things would enable us that it will not be kind of a repetition of the story which we have witnessed earlier.
What is the kind of interest that you are seeing for restructuring so far, sir? Can you give us a sense of what has the demand been and what kind of companies, what size of companies or corporate borrowers especially are coming in for restructuring?
I think it is too early to see the numbers because, most of the banks have the board policies put in place only in the middle of this September, right? 15th, 16th. And in a couple of days, we have put the frequently asked questions. And this information about the FAQs and the policy prescriptions are just reaching the corporates. And many of them have to internally evaluate. And also some of them were waiting for the Kamath panel recommendations also. Now that the clarity has emerged in terms of what kind of restructuring is possible, now I think they all will internally evaluate. I think they all
And if you're a cooperative bank customer, there's an important update for you as well. Yesterday, the Parliament cleared a new banking regulation bill. What exactly does that mean? Well, the 1,482 urban cooperative banks and another 58 multi-state cooperative banks that are present in India will now come under the supervision of the RBI. This to ensure that there's no PMC bank-like incident that sort of occurs going forward. The RBI will be properly keeping an eye on the operations of the cooperative banks as well. This is good news for depositors of cooperative banks as well, because do remember there are 8.6 crore depositors and the total money that these depositors have put in with these cooperative banks is almost 5 lakh crore rupees. So firstly, let's assume that there's another unfortunate incident of a cooperative bank finding itself stressed, and mind you, there could be, because there are almost 277 cooperative banks whose financial situation is weak. Another couple also do have a negative net worth. So in case if these banks really go from bad to worse, then the RBI now has the power to restructure the bank. That's basically find a solution, as they are trying to do right now for PMC Bank, without putting a moratorium on the amount of money that depositors can withdraw. So my suggestion any which ways, to these, customers of these banks that are financially sick would be to stop banking with these cooperative banks and, go for maybe one of the bigger ones. But let's say if you are caught on the other side, you get the shorter end of the straw, then, still the RBI will come in, and, there is a possibility that the RBI as well will not put an embargo on your deposit. So that's a good thing. Further, the RBI will also supersede the board of directors in a multi-state cooperative bank for up to 5 years if it feels it's in the interest of the depositors. And the cooperative bank will also be free to open branches or open new business or even close a branch if it feels so, without taking the permission of the RBI. So I guess that would just sort of enable the cooperative bank to serve you better. So that's roughly all about the new banking regulation bill. I guess cooperative bank depositors gives them some more comfort with respect to their money being parked in these these cooperative banks. All right, well, without any further ado, now let's take on board our topic on traveling. Of course, it's important to understand that at this point, it's best to avoid any sort of travel, but we do understand that it could be a little difficult, especially if someone has to travel, for business purposes. COVID has definitely changed the way we travel, but it's important that everybody takes appropriate preventive measures, follows the travel guidelines. It's of prime importance. And furthermore, if you are traveling, insurance now has never been more important, whether it's travel or health. So let's discuss a little bit more about this, the do's and the don'ts when it comes to insurance. We have with us Sanjay Datta. He is the Chief Claims Underwriting and Reinsurance for ICICI Lombard General Insurance. Mr. Datta, really appreciate you giving us your time today on the Money Show. So to start with, what would be, earlier maybe we would take travel insurance for granted. But I'm sure, travel insurance now has assumed a lot of importance. How would essentially travel insurance cover all the vagaries involved today when I book a flight? There's a possibility of it getting delayed, cancelled, so on and so forth. So how would travel insurance help me with all of those vagaries?
Travel insurance is important to, kind of aid a tool in our travel, in our journeys, within India or abroad. So unfortunately, way travel insurance take-up rate, in India was concerned. The total number of, travelers did not take travel insurance, or if they took travel insurance, they were not, adequately covered. So there were some countries which they went to where it was mandatory. Let's say it's Schengen countries. That's where they took it. But let's say the rest of the world, let's US and other areas, the rest of the world, they didn't take it. But if you look at the exposure to travel risk, it's the highest on the medical side. You could fall sick. There could be issues where you would need repatriation, from those countries back to your, home country. And that involves huge amount of expenses and a lot of logistics and, various other infrastructure, which your travel insurance policy, gives you in terms of, support at that, moment of truth. And so it's very, very important that, it needed to be there. Now in COVID times, in the way we are, where there is a likelihood of us falling sick due to COVID in any country, it's become paramount importance. The medical part of it, along with the cancellation, the uncertainty around flights getting cancelled, our journeys getting rescheduled. So all of that gets covered under travel insurance.
Mr. Datta, how do you decide on what's adequate insurance? It could be very tricky, right? And there are so many moving parts. So how do you decide? What are the factors that if I want to buy, an insurance, what are the factors I should keep in mind?
So, the travel insurance which you get in India covers medical exigencies, unlike, some other forms of travel insurance which is prevalent in the world, where it only covers trip cancellation or, just loss of baggage or various other, things like that without any medical, coverage. But ours is, a medical inclusive coverage. I believe that's the lead cover in our travel insurance policies. And in this way, the country in which you travel to and the kind of exposure to costs on a medical emergency is what you need to weigh, consider, when you think about taking, adequate sum insurance. For example, everybody knows the cost of medical care in US is the highest in the world. In fact, if you compare it to India, it's 1/10 in India versus, what a similar procedure would take place, if you were to do a similar thing in US. So given that perspective, if you have, let's say, a particular sub-insured in India, you would need to take 10 times that kind of cover, if you went to US. Similarly, you go to other developed countries where the cost of healthcare is high, you would need to take, coverage which would take care of your illnesses there. And the second part of it, which is where the issues like travel cancellation, various other parts of the risk associated with travel is concerned, they do come in and they need to be weighed in the context of the kind of trips are you making. Are you making a trip which involves a lot of legs, where could be loss of baggage or could be delays or cancellations and all of that? Then of course travel insurance comes in very handy. You land up in a country and you are without support. Travel insurance gives you the wherewithal to cope with all that emergency. So roughly speaking, the travel insurance sub-insured ranges, typically in the country, from $15,000 to $500,000. In some countries now they've made a mandatory, $100,000 kind of, limit. But where such a limit is not applicable, one would say that, take anything from 50,000 to 1 lakh is the base start minimum. And obviously we need to go up, considering the area where you are traveling. For the US, you need to increase it much, much bigger sum insured with that.
Just to get this right for our viewers, Mr. Datta, so let's say if I've bought a travel insurance cover for myself, so not only will it cover my any flights cancellations or delays, but let's say if I've traveled to, let's say, maybe the United States and I fall sick over there, so can I go, can I rely on my travel insurance cover to sort of help me pay off the medical expenses I'll incur in the United States to treat myself?
You can get a cashless coverage there.
Okay. All right. Understood. Mr. Datta, now I want to know that, you mentioned that sometimes it will also depend on the country that you are traveling. It will also depend on, the duration for which you are traveling. But on an average, pre-COVID and now, given the times that we are in, will customers have to, sort of dole out more premium for buying a travel insurance cover?
I think, frankly speaking, we as insurers have not revised our travel pricing based on COVID. We have taken COVID. We are paying for COVID not only within our country but also outside the country. We will see how the impact of COVID claims come in. But apart from that, it's just not only COVID claims we're looking at. We're looking at the whole range of exigencies which travel involves, and it could be an accident. It could be something. Travel. You are backpacking and you doing something else. In terms of adventure sports, and you would need to have those kind of coverages which take care of it. So typically speaking, it covers the whole range of risks. Just purely the COVID treatment is not the only reason why the premiums are charged. And so we'll have to wait and watch in terms of the number of COVID cases for us to be able to see whether there's, as of now, nobody's increased, insurance premium in India because of this exigency. The insurance premiums continue to be roughly the same. What has changed is a bit the duration of travel, which, as you are aware, some of the, air travel abroad has resumed through air bubbles. 14 countries have been announced, and some of the people who are traveling there are traveling more for longer duration, may not be just only for leisure. And the second part is that some countries, for Thailand, for example, is insisting that you have a 1-year coverage when you land there.
All right. So, Mr. Datta, just for the benefit of our viewers, let's say that there are certain exigencies, there are delays, there are cancellations, and I have with me a travel insurance product that I've purchased from ICICI Lombard. What would be the procedure to make a claim? What are the documents you would require? How would it also be done? Because, I mean, obviously we have social distancing measures as well in place. And and also, I mean, what should customers do to ensure that they are able to receive their claim? I mean, I'm sure that every insurance company is not going to let any and every claim admitted. So, how exactly does that work?
You're right, absolutely. So, but when you're abroad, I think the process is very simple. Most insurance companies, give you, toll-free call centers where you can call and, lodge a claim. And if you require support there itself, minimum paperwork. You don't need to, just evidence your policy number and your, let's say, your what I talked about earlier, cashless hospitalization in that particular things takes place, and we take care of the entire bill, and you come out of the treatment. Now, let's say, for example, you undertook some expenses, whether it's medical or non-medical, where you paid yourself and you would need to, come back and get it reimbursed. You didn't avail cashless, or it was, the amount was not big enough for you to call for it. You just paid yourself. The process is very simple nowadays. You just, scan your bills or documents and send it to us at a particular, email ID, and, we take care of it. There are, for, certain companies like us, you can also upload it in your app or something. Where we have, those who have apps downloaded for these purposes, and you can submit your documents. Once verification is done, the payout happens electronically. So there is no question of coming in contact. So the entire process is, let's say, contactless.
Okay, excellent. Well, there you have it, all that you need to know about travel insurance, especially when you are traveling during a pandemic. And like I flagged off right at the beginning, you need to ensure all procedures, every guideline is followed to the T. Sanjay Datta, thank you so much for joining us today on The Money Show. And yes, you as well can find this entire episode and especially our conversation with Mr. Sanjay Datta on ET Now's YouTube channel. For now, we'll take a very short break on the show, but when we return, we'll keep it with the travel theme for our Spend with TMS segment and tell you about the things to keep in mind before you consider booking a flight.